Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment or question comes from the Declan Smith. And this was in response to Rest in Peace StudioSpares, which was a Sunday morning rant I did in September 2024. Running a bit ahead of myself there. And a bit of a multi-part one, this one. But Declan writes, I have just refurbished my studio and bought the Lambden Audio L-X8 system, wiring looms and an extra L-8X speaker for the central channel, part of my 5.1 setup. Well, I haven't got a 5.1 setup here. Mine is pretty basic at the moment. It's just trying to sort of get me back into recording. But Declan goes on to say, I've used StudioSpares for years and was horrified they've gone into liquidation. I think a lot of people are quite shocked about this. But I did do research on Companies House, and the company's only been registered since 2017, which could indicate they went and came back before. So who knows? They may, of course, reform. Sadly, though, I think the Lambden Audio was one of their operators. I've also got a pair of their Swain monitor, amazing kit. I hope they come back, but if not, rest in peace. Now, the funniest thing is that when they went bust, one of the reasons why I realised they'd gone bust was because I actually had wiring looms in my cart, and I was going onto my cart to check them out so that I could buy them and bring them here. I've had wiring looms in the old studio, but the way the old studio was set up was not the same as the studio is set up now, if that makes any sense. So I didn't have this big rack of equipment in the old studio in the same way. So the way it was kind of all wired up, the looms were different, so I needed different looms, so they were in the cart. And like many other people who use StudioSpares, and at the time of winding up, I had a quick look at the balance sheet for the last accounts that were filed, and the company was technically insolvent at the 31st of December 2023, which was when the last accounts were made up for. So maybe the takeover rumours were right, and without fresh injection of capital, they basically just couldn't continue. Now, you will notice, if you've followed kind of the StudioSpares story, that the Gazette notice does say it's a voluntary winding up, which normally means the shareholders are no longer willing to support the business, or no longer willing to put more money into the business, support losses, should I say. And StudioSpares, I think it's StudioSpares Europe is actually the technical name of the company, has actually only been set up for around 7 years, which could mean it was a phoenix. And what do I mean by phoenix? As in, a previous company ceased operation and a new company effectively was set up to buy the old company out, which is what they mean by a phoenix company. So they also call it pre-packaged administration. Allows you to sort of like get rid of all your debts, form a new company, take the assets over, and then carry on trading, all legal like. But whichever way you look at this, I've always suspected that kind of the Amazon culture is one of the big contributors to why StudioSpares has been struggling. And why do I say that? Because in the Amazon world, you can go onto the Amazon website and you see cables for all kinds of things. Problem with the Amazon culture is that you have absolutely zero idea about the quality. You can't take the Amazon reviews as truth, and that's quite sad, but that's reality, because people will pay other people or bots, and what do I mean by bot? I mean a robotic what do I mean by a bot? A bot is a computer that effectively logs on and will write whatever you want it to write, and because it's computerized, it can leave numerous reviews over a period of time. You just program frequency, and a lot of Far Eastern companies have been known to use these kind of bot technologies just to get their sort of views and profile up. We get X number of stars. That doesn't necessarily mean you've got X number of stars. So what we'll have to see is whether there is a phoenix that comes out of this particular administration, or whether StudioSpares is completely done. Now, I did look up StudioSpares this morning at the point of recording this. So this reply was written about 6 weeks ago, and so of course I've kind of looked them up again this morning. And whereas at the point this reply was written, the StudioSpares website was reporting that the website was down for maintenance, as of this morning when I looked up, the website was actually not up at all. So there was no error message. It was just coming up with a 404 not found. So what I would say is I really do not know what's going to happen. I've had to source my looms from another company. I will let you know what I think of the product of this other company shortly. I think, basically based on what I've seen so far, they're acceptable quality. I've gone by 8x8 looms, basically because that kind of suits how the instruments need to be wired in. So we'll see whether another company can fill the gap, because the thing about StudioSpares was the looms were actually, the cables from StudioSpares, and I've said this before, so I'm not saying anything new. I said it in the SMR. The cables from StudioSpares actually were decent quality at a reasonable price, and the looms that I've had from StudioSpares, I have no issues with those looms. The problem I have with the looms that I got from StudioSpares, and the reason why I'm not using them this time around, is because one loom was 5 meters long, one loom was 10 meters long, and I just don't need that kind of length in this studio as it's currently set up. So, the Amazon thing just means that, cheap crap cables as well as some quality cables. And that's the problem with Amazon. As I said, you can't work out whether the cable's good or not until you buy it and realise it's just a load of pants. But they've got your money, you've spent your money. Sometimes you can send them back, but most times, by the time you realise that the cable is absolutely crap, it's just not worth the aggro. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens in this space.